Hello everyone, how's it going? I'm WoWcrendor and welcome back to more lore for noobs, essentially, because I am that noob, and I'm bringing on the best person I know with WoW lore, and that's Nobbel, although people like to call you Nobbel, but I know it's possibly Noble sometime.
It's whatever you want it to be, buddy. It's actually, Nobbel, but, it's whatever you want it to be.
That sounds like Noble in there.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we got a lot to talk about. I know last time we talked it was Legion, but I feel like this lore is crazier than Legion so far. At least more controversial than Legion.
That's for sure. Yeah.
So why don't you, first off, why don't you tell everybody who you are first, just in case they don't know.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nobbel, and I spent the last 5 to 6 years talking about the lore of Warcraft. I've deep dived into characters, zones, concepts, and I'm a guy that loves to tell a story, and I'm a guy that really enjoys the Warcraft lore.
Yes, and if you want to check him out, link's always in the description, because if you want to know anything about lore, he's probably talked about it and probably has a video on it.
Most likely.
Yeah. So first off, why don't you summarize kind of where we are right now, like from the end of Legion, like what happened at the end of Legion, and then where BFA is about to start. I know it's a lot to summarize, but
Okay, well, before we begin, a little heads up. I might be dropping spoilers. So if you're not interested in spoilers, then, just to be safe. Where are we? At the end of Legion, we teamed up with Order Halls, we teamed up with the Pantheon, and we took on Sargeras, the leader of the Burning Legion, and we imprisoned him at the seat of Pantheon. Illidan decided to stay behind, but before Sargeras was imprisoned, he was kind enough to leave a little present upon Azeroth. His major goal was always to kill the Titan spirit that slumbered within. Now, he wasn't able to deal a death blow, but he was definitely able to deal some massive damage to the world, a massive sword in Sylvanas, and from the wounds, Azeroth is bleeding. Azerite is the talk of the town, a brand new material. Brand new for most, except for Jester Gallywix. He, on the island of Kazan, had the goblins digging for something called Kashamite, and they went so deep that not only did they potentially cause the destruction of the little island, they also found a bit of Azerite. So when the sword got into Sylvanas, his Azerite became active again. He showed it to the war chief, and upon touching it, brilliant strategies raced through her mind. She felt incredibly powerful. The world could crumble beneath her touch. And this would change everything. This would change the face of warfare. And then on the Alliance side, they discover that the goblins have been digging in Sylvanas. They too discover Azerite. Anduin touches it. And he has a very similar reaction. He also feels the power. He feels the strategies racing through his mind. And he realizes how many people they could heal. How many people could they soothe. But how many people could this kill? And that thought just hit him like a gut punch. So, yeah, Azerite is a weapon race. And the faction war is upon us.
alright, so it's pretty much revolving all around this Azerite. So it's like this super mineral, essentially, right? Has there been anything like this before in Warcraft, or is this like the first time anyone's noticed it, or like have they been digging before and been like, it's like this one piece of Azerite, this is crazy, like way back some time ago?
Well, that was Gallywix. He found a way back. But something like this, this is like the most powerful thing they've ever touched. Sure enough, we had resources in the past that really made people powerful and whatnot. But this is the blood of a Titan. This is unlike anything they've ever touched before.
All right. So let's talk about Sylvanas, because I know everybody's talking about Sylvanas right now. So while all this is happening, what's going on with Sylvanas?
What's going on with Sylvanas, and by extension the Horde? Sylvanas is a character that, up to the point of Wrath of the Lich King, for those unaware, Sylvanas was killed by Arthas and then resurrected as a Banshee. Eventually she was able to break free from his control, and she led the Forsaken. The Forsaken then joined the Horde, and their mission was to get vengeance. They wanted vengeance upon Arthas for what they had done to them, and at the end of Wrath of the Lich King, they got their vengeance, and then Blizzard had to decide, what are we going to do with this character? In the short story, they decided that Sylvanas was going to kill herself. She jumped off the top of Icecrown Citadel, she landed on Serenite, and rather than the eternal bliss that she was hoping for, she actually ended up in hell. Now, there is room for speculation here, like, did she truly see hell? Is this really what happened? But whatever, what we know right now is she ended up in hell, and she made a bargain with the Valkyr. They would take her place in hell. They would endure that eternal torment. So by that, she could come back, and in exchange, they would be free from Bolvar's control. So not only did Sylvanas have, like, one-ups at this point, she also had the power to resurrect more Forsaken, place more of the undead curse upon others. So over time, more and more, she's becoming the thing that she hated. She's becoming more and more like an Arthas. And in Legion, we saw her working together with Varian on the Broken Shore. Shoulder to shoulder, they stood against the Legion. But the Broken Shore was a death trap. Vol'jin massively wounded, even Thrall kneeling on the floor. They were not going to make it out of there alive. And Vol'jin told her, like, the Horde cannot die this day. So the Banshee Queen, she made the call. She called to retreat, which to the Alliance, some amongst the Alliance, it appeared as a betrayal. And back at Orgrimmar, Vol'jin, poisoned by the demons, the Whispers, they tell him a name many will not understand, but she has to become the War Chief. So War Chief Sylvanas now leads the Horde with the words, "We're gonna claim vengeance for Vol'jin." But that was not her only objective. In the zone Stormheim, we saw her lead the Horde into the zone, and they were going there for two things. One was the Pillar of Creation, which was like the major objective that we needed to seal off that gateway from the Legion. But the second objective was to get Aegir, the power to create more Valkyr. For this, she made a bargain with Helya, Queen of the Underworld, that we took down in a raid. But unfortunately for the Banshee Queen, Greymane and the Alliance, they struck out at her, and they prevented her plans. From that, there was actually quite a bit of build-up, like, okay, where do we go from here? What exactly is the bargain that she made with Helya? What's going to happen next? But unfortunately in Legion, the whole Alliance-Horde conflict, it didn't really play out anymore. All we really did was take towers from each other. While the Order Halls, they stepped up. We led our classes with the Order Halls. We took the campaign into Argus and beyond, and we saved the world. Now, in Battle for Azeroth, we come back home. And the controversy has multiple layers. There's a story that we see in the pre-event, and then there's a story that we get in the books that come with the collector's edition, and then there is the whole we're doing a Garrosh 2.0. So basically what we see in-game is that Sylvanas, she mentions Anduin as a prime motivation of starting another war. She fears Anduin. She fears that Anduin is doing what she's doing, which is turning Azeroth into weapons. And that is a very unexplained, I'd say, a very shallow reasoning of starting the war into a Darkshore and, by extension, Teldrassil. Because we have to keep in mind that at this point, Sylvanas just wants to stay alive, right? But all the same, the Horde stands with her. They follow her through the campaign up to the point of burning the tree. And all the while, during beta, during PTR, the viewers on Twitch as well, and me, myself, we were speculating, like, is more going on? Is this truly what the motivation is going to be like? Why couldn't it have been the Alliance that was the aggressor? Why don't they touch upon things from the past? Why don't they mention Greymane by name? But that didn't really happen in game. All we heard was she fears Anduin, and, what will war be like in the future now that we have Azeroth? Better to start a war than to wait and have the enemy start a war. But the problem is, the enemy is led by Anduin Wrynn. Anduin is one of the biggest peacekeepers out there. So why does someone like Sylvanas fear Anduin? Why don't they go for peace first? That was the story presented at first. So we make our way to Teldrassil, and then a lot of people were like hoping, well, maybe, just maybe, there's something else going on here. Maybe it's not the Banshee Queen that burns down the tree. Maybe it's an outside source. Maybe it's inside betrayal. Maybe something else going on here. Maybe it just doesn't look, at face value. And then we got the cinematic. And Sylvanas talks to the elf. The elf calls her the enemy of life. And she gives the order to burn down Teldrassil. And that's what we got at face value. You still with me?
I am still with you. I am trying to absorb everything.
Cool. So that's what we got in-game. And I had a lot of critiques and a lot of complaints about storytelling, especially when it comes to motivation. Like, why does the Horde follow the Banshee Queen? Why do they not mention Greymane, for example? Greymane struck out at Stormheim. Why don't they touch upon that? Why does someone like Fang stand with her and say nothing when they burn down the tree? Why did they just follow them? And then a day later, a friend of mine, Perculia, she got the collector's edition with the books. And she started talking about points in the story which my initial reaction was like, why isn't this in the game? And then another day later, I got my own collector's edition and I got to read the book. And I'm like, the story presented in the book does not comply with what we see in game. There is some very minor hints at what they're going for, but it does not compare. With that, I mean, the reasoning of starting this war is not just fearing Anduin. It calls back to all the moments in which the Alliance and the Horde fought with each other, especially Greymane in Stormheim, especially mentioning that Anduin does not rule the Alliance alone, he has other people whispering in his ears. And another key element is when it comes to peace. Like, we have Anduin lead the Alliance right now, a peacekeeper, somebody that you can work towards peace with. But Sylvanas argues, okay, maybe we can have peace for a year, but what about 10? What about 50? What about 100? Will peace endure that long? And when you look back at the history of Warcraft, you know, the facts speak for her. There hasn't really been peace in Warcraft for that long. So perhaps she does have a point. What if they can wipe out the enemy, and by doing so, actually secure peace? Something that Fang can also get behind. He helps her with planning this war, because Sylvanas knows full well that the Horde needs somebody honorable to stand against, and for all intents and purposes, she's not somebody honorable, like everybody knows that. So Fang helps her with leading this campaign, and they go through their invasion. And what we see in-game from the Night Elves is that they pretty much roll over and die. Like, the Night Elves do not put up much of resistance. There's even an NPC that says, I don't want to fight you, but I will if I have to. That's also not how it happens. Like, in the book, you can read about the Night Elves making the Horde pay for every step they take into their lands. You read about how they realized from the get-go, like, the numbers were like 10,000. It was like outnumbered 8-1. They knew from the get-go that they were not going to win this war, but they were going to try their damnness to make it happen, all the while trying to evacuate Teldrassil. So step by step, the campaign plays out. Fun fact, Malfurion and Saurfang actually end up in Makurat together. And Sylvanas saves his life. Is also not played out in-game. There's a trap set by the Night Elves by using the corpses of their fallen, is not played out in-game. There's a whole lot of details in that book that, in my opinion, should have made it into the game. Some argue that we should have been more patient. Some argue that we are judging a show by seeing the first episode rather than the entire storyline. But I disagree. In my opinion, they present a certain story, and then they go like, oh yeah, but that's not the actual story. This is what actually happened. I was like, yeah, there's a disconnect between the story they had planned and the story that they present in-game. Not the first time that it happened either. Like, if you remember the bombing of Fedamore with Jaina and all that, a whole lot of details. Like, even now, people still ask, like, oh, Ronin, he's actually dead? Like, when did that happen? Oh, the bombing of Fedamore. But the game doesn't show that. It's like, yeah, but it did happen. And I feel that this is very similar. But all the same, we the things that I criticize, like a motivation, we now have, in my opinion, a solid motivation. You can still debate, like, is it good enough or not? But that's, you know, there is something to debate, at least. So we make our way to the tree, and the original plan was to occupy it. By occupying it, they would have civilians that they could hold as hostages. So even if the Alliance wanted to retaliate by attacking Lordaeron, for example, they couldn't, because they had hostages. They also wanted to drive the Alliance, drive it out from within, turn them against each other. By, for example, if Anduin gave the order to go and liberate Teldrassil first, how would someone like Greymane react that they retake the home of the Kaldorei before they retake the home of the Gilneans? Now, on the Alliance side, because there are two stories here, it's on the Horde perspective and the Alliance perspective. On the Alliance perspective, we read about Greymane that's like, yeah, but the Night Elves really helped us out. They gave us a home where we had nothing. They helped us deal with the Worgen Curse. Do you honestly think that I'm going to be pissed off if you help them out first? No, of course not. We are Alliance, and the Banshee Queen does not understand how we work. But all the same, that was their mindset. Like, we can see the overarching storyline, and we can make judgment for ourselves. But from Sylvanas' perspective, not trusting that the Alliance would trust each other, I can kind of get behind. So we get to the whole moment where she confronts Malfurion and Saurfang helps her out. And he throws that weapon, he interrupts their fight. It was a dishonorable blow. And in my opinion, that is one of the dumbest moments still, even with the Collector's Edition book. Because at that moment, Sylvanas had what she wanted. They had Teldrassil under their control. They had Malfurion dead on the floor. All it took was one more shot to make it happen. But instead, she gives the order to Saurfang. You finish it while I'll go and do something else. It was literally one arrow for him to die, and she doesn't do it. That is, in my opinion, one of the more dumbest moments. It's explained in the way of a war chief that was too overconfident. Like, she believed Sour Fang would actually finish the job. Didn't happen.
It's almost like the classic James Bond trope of like, I've got you now, and then they just don't kill him.
Yeah, I can understand that you didn't want to kill off Malfurion in that moment, but at least give it a better motivation. Like, say that Sylvanas was just too tired to do anything else. But no, she's boasting like, oh, I had him. You didn't have to help me. He's like, no, you didn't. He could turn you into a tree in a second. Yeah. So yeah, that dumb moment then flows into the burning of Teldrassil, where Sylvanas, she gives the order to start the occupation. She talks to the elf, and she realizes that Malfurion's death was supposed to weaken their spirit, was supposed to crush them. And since Malfurion was not killed, she decided that they had to do something else. She decided that the burning of the tree was going to be that thing that crushed the Night Elf spirits. Now I'm going to ask to you, is that what you got out of the cinematic?
No. No, it's not.
And that's why I'm saying, like, the information from the books, the feeling should have been transferred over better into the game. So she gives the order to burn the tree, and oh man, the way that they describe the burning, how the citizens are still there, and they call upon Elune not for salvation, but for mercy. And Elune grants them their mercy by putting them all to sleep, make sure that they have a painless death. It's heart-wrenching. So yeah, and we also read in the book itself that Sour Fang was not okay with the order of burning the tree. He was like, no, what are you doing? Stop it. But it was already too late. And that is part of the controversy when it comes to the starting campaign. Like, we see one story and then the books add another part of the story, which just, in my opinion, does not comply with it. Mm-hmm. And again, some argue that it's just putting meat on the bones. In my opinion, it should have been in-game. You should not have to read outside sources to understand, like, oh, this is what's going on.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Like, sure, you can simplify it, but, like, if you simplify it to the point of leaving out core details, it's like, that's pretty bad.
Exactly. Yeah, it really, really is. So, that's why, like, those that have seen my Sylvanas reaction, you might have heard me say, like, this is one of the worst moments in the lore. That has now changed to this is one of the most worst represented moments in the lore, because there is a story. Like, everything that I criticized has been addressed in the collector's edition books. It's just not presented in game. And then the overarching thing, which is still quite a point of debate, is that people see Sylvanas as a Garrosh 2.0, like a dark war chief doing things that the rest of the hordes do not stand by. And we're doing a repeat of that storyline. Now, there are some hints that there are alternative motives to what Sylvanas is doing, that she has bigger plans besides just taking care of the Alliance. But those are just hints here and there. I can 100% agree that it would have been a lot more fun if the Alliance was the aggressor for a change. It would have been a lot more fun if we didn't have to exchange War Chief year after year after year. Does Blizzard have bigger plans in mind? Maybe. But how do you go back from genocide upon the Night Elf race and burning down the tree? And for those that are saying, like, it wasn't genocide, like, the collector's edition literally calls it genocide. So, you know.
Yeah. Again, another detail. You gotta read the books.
Exactly. And of course, it comes with the collector's edition, and of course, it will be available online for free at some point. But man, did they drop the ball! And then another point of critique was like, what is Sour Fang's reaction? Which then brings us to the Old Soldier cinematic, in which we see the aftermath of the burning, and we see Sour Fang traumatized by what he witnessed. Like, in the past, he had demon blood pumping in his veins. When he sacked Shefref City, when he sacked Stormwind City, he had demon blood pumping in his veins. But this time around, there's no such thing to ease his consciousness, so to say. And he did enjoy this war, didn't he? So he's pondering to himself, like, what happened? What have I done? How could I have led our troops into following this war chief? So he makes the choice of claiming that final victory in battle. He is ready to face his demise and face the Alliance alone. Very reminiscent of Broxigar, like his brother. Broxigar, once upon a time, was also very suicidal until he ended up back in time in the War of the Ancients, and eventually rose up to such heights that he was able to inflict a wound upon Sargeras. I wonder what Sour Fang is going to rise up to. But yeah, he's ready to claim his final victory in battle, and then Zappy Boy shows up, the troll with him.
Yep.
And the parallels between a father without a son and a son without a father. The Horde is all that Zappy Boy is left. And can Sour Fang actually leave that behind? and he decides, like, no, I do not agree with what the war chief has done, but I cannot abandon the Horde in this critical moment. I will stand with them. And that is what's going to take us into the Siege of Lordaeron. Have you done it on the beta, Siege of Lordaeron?
I have done that, yes. That is.
So you know what happens to Sour Fang, right?
I don't actually remember because I was kind of podcasting over. I do remember spoilers where like you get pretty much gassed by Sylvanas and like,
correct.
Or not Sylvanas. Is it Sylvanas or just like the Forsaken?
In order of, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was kind of confused. Like, oh, so we're like both getting gassed essentially here because it's more like she cares about the Forsaken more than anything. Is that right?
In essence, Sylvanas will do whatever it takes to claim victory, and she decides to use the plague not only against the Alliance but also the Horde, and then she resurrects those Horde members to fight again.
I see. So
yeah, becoming more and more like the Lich King, and this is a line that Sour Fang is unable to cross. He's like, "What have you done to our units?" Now, in the past, Sour Fang ended up in confrontation with the Alliance, and he wanted his final death again. They denied it and instead imprisoned him. In the past, he would say, "Get out of my way, I'm going to speak to your boy king once he is in the stockades." These days, he says, "I'm not going back to the Horde, I'm going to chill in the stockades for a while," which I personally find a bit disappointing, but who knows what might come in the future. Like, I don't think Sour Fang is going to spend the entire expansion in jail. I would be very surprised.
Yeah. So I actually want to rewind a bit, all the way back to the Sylvanas suicide.
Right.
So she goes to hell, and she gets resurrected by the Valkyries, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So why exactly do they make this deal with her? Like, oh, we'll take your place in hell. We're they're free from Bolvar's control, but like, why is it worth not being under Bolvar's control to just go to hell?
Well, that's the question that actually runs a lot of speculation. It's a very good question. This falls in line with, did Sylvanas truly see hell, or is this a manipulation by landing on the blood of Yogg-Saron? Because that is what Serenite is. Did perhaps the Valkyr show her something that was not true? The whole reason why Sylvanas does what she does is because she saw hell. So if that was not true, then is somebody manipulating her? Is there an alternative motive to what the Valkyr are doing? Are the Valkyr perhaps working for some source in the Shadowlands, for the source of death, perhaps for the source of old gods, perhaps for Bolvar himself? Are they perhaps the spirits that whispered to Vol'jin to make her war chief? And if so, why? There is a lot that they could work with there, but we do not know. Like, we do not know if there's an alternative motive to the Valkyr or not.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty specific to have her fall on Serenite, which is all like tied into all that. I actually like that a lot. I like the old god twist on it, because I know that's the other thing I was going to ask about, is just the whispers, because I know they're like, oh, I've heard these whispers to make Sylvanas the war chief, and it's like, yeah, but it's like, yeah, all right, I heard the whispers, so you know what, I gotta do it.
Gotta do it, man. Well, there's also a lot to be said there. Like, Vol'jin was on his deathbed. Like, was he just delusional? Or perhaps it's linked to the Loa that we see in Battle for Azeroth. Like, not all the Loa are doing too well in Battle for Azeroth. Is that perhaps why he heard those names? Or indeed, old god influence. And I don't know if you've read the Windrunner comic, where there's the Windrunner reunion between Sylvanas, Illyria, and Varisa.
I've heard about it. I haven't read it, though.
Basically what we see is Illyria is the one, the Void Elf, and she's constantly hearing the Void talk. But it almost seems that the Void gets a little bit more edgy, a little bit more active when they see Sylvanas, like they're afraid of her. But there's a lot of ways to interpret it. You could just say, like, this is the Void trying to make Illyria fall to them and do whatever they want to do. Or you could say that the Void is actually afraid of death, and if that's the case, then why? So yeah, for the future storytelling, there's a whole lot they could work with.
Actually, could we even talk about that a bit, the Void? Like, could you explain a little more about the Void? That's just like one of those things where I hear about it and I'm like, oh yeah, the Void, but I don't really know about the Void. You know what I mean?
In the beginning, there was light and there was void. These two opposite yet inseparable forces clashed with each other, and from that explosion, the physical universe came to be. Now, the Void, you gotta see, like, the Void is, like, in its own realm, like the Dark something. Basically, the Void looked upon the physical universe, the Void looked upon our little realm of creation, and they were like, you know what we're gonna do? We really want to party there and devour all of that, but how are we gonna do that? Oh, you know what? You see those slumbering titans in those little planets? What if we're able to control those? What if we're able to corrupt those? Because they were unable to corrupt the awakened titans. And in order to accomplish their goal, they pulled the powers together and they manifested in the physical universe. They tossed out their power, and this power is known as the Old Gods. But like the titans, they too had no idea which planets had a slumbering titan inside or not. So they just, spray painted the universe of Old Gods, hoping that they would land on one of them. And a couple of them did. There was one planet discovered by Sargeras, in which he actually found out about the Void Lord's plans. And this is what caused Sargeras to create the Burning Legion. In his mind, a destroyed universe could potentially grow back again. And it was better than to let the Void Lord succeed in creating this corrupted titan. He was actually afraid of that. So he formed the Burning Legion, and that was their goal, to cleanse the universe. Whereas the rest of the Pantheon, the rest of the titans, they were like, yeah, but that's all cool and all, but maybe we can find another way besides just murdering every titan in existence. And they decided, once they found Azeroth, a titan, or a planet with a titan spirit, with old gods, they decided not to smite it down. Instead, they gave it a fighting chance. They imprisoned the old gods, and they did everything they could to let the spirit grow. Which is also the reason why Sargeras so desperately wants to destroy Azeroth, because, old gods, spirit. And that's basically the Void Lords. They're like they're like, the Void. They wanna consume the universe and destroy everything.
I see. So they're just trying to essentially just manipulate everything at this point towards destruction.
Yeah, and I think a big point of their plot device is that they cannot just enter our realm and be like, hello, we're here now. Yeah. They need to work on actually creating a physical manifestation in our universe. Mm-hmm. In this case, the form of the old gods and corrupting that slumbering titan spirit. So, if Battle for Azeroth is truly going to work towards Azeroth waking up, how long have the old gods been on the planet? What kind of influence has that done on that titan spirit? Like, how will she be when she wakes up? And if she wakes up, then that means, by all accounts, she is the last of the slumbering titans. Does that mean that Sargeras no longer has something to fear? And will that mean that Sargeras in the future actually joins us in the war against the Void? Could be.
Ooh. That'd be weird. Is the Void tied into the Nether at all? Because I almost kind of relate those two when I think about it.
Oh man, you're asking something now. I should actually pick up the Chronicles to give you a proper description, but from the top of my head, think of the Twisted Nether like the layer that is over everything. Mm-hmm. And then the realm of the Void is like parallel to the actual realm.
Oh, I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. So it's like it's what separates kind of the reality of like where we are in Azeroth and like everything, and then there's like, it's kind of like a wall, right?
That's how I always envision it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me. Do I have my Chronicle here? Then I can just look up the description for. Volume 1. Yes, here we go. We're getting source material out now. Woo. Fill me up, Crendor. I need like a couple of seconds. Fill airtime.
Wow, I am getting my mind flooded right now. And I actually like it a lot because I love learning about lore. I think when you learn about the lore of WoW and Warcraft and all this, I think it makes playing the game that much more fun and that much more of an experience. I know after I played through the whole Warcraft 3 campaign, I just wanted to play WoW and like play everything. I was like, oh my god, this is where Arthas did the thing. This is where this thing happened. This is what, and you start like putting all these things together. Or even the little things you find around the world, like, oh my god, could this be an old god artifact? Or like, it just, it's
I really wonder what it would have been like if I played WoW with Warcraft 3 knowledge first rather than afterwards. I wonder what it would have been like.
Yeah, because that's how I was too, is I played WoW without Warcraft 3, and then I played Warcraft 3, and I was like, oh my god, I want to go into WoW and find all these things.
Mm-hmm. Right, I have a description, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Great Dark Beyond is that just represents the physical universe. It is an infinite living realm composed of innumerable stars, worlds, and mortal civilizations. Like that's just, the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the Twisted Nether, which is an astral dimension that lies in parallel with the Great Dark Beyond. The forces of light and void, they bleed together at the boundaries of the Twisting Nether, engulfing this realm in perpetual strife. At times, the volatile magics that pervade the Twisted Nether, they intrude upon the physical universe, warping reality beyond measure. And then Void Lords. The Void Lords are monstrous entities composed of pure shadow energy. These beings are cruel and merciless beyond mortal comprehension. Driven by an insatiable hunger, the Void Lords seek to devour all matter and energy in the physical universe. In a natural state, the Void Lords exist outside reality. Only the most powerful of these entities can manifest in the physical universe, and only for limited amounts of time. To maintain their presence in reality, the Void Lords must consume untold amounts of matter and energy.
Ooh.
That's it.
I mean, that's a pretty good description. I think it is exactly what you were saying.
Oh, thank you. And then there's also, if you ever open up the puzzle box of Yaxaron or listened to what some of the old cup minions say, they also mention Nyalofa a lot, and we have no idea what Nyalofa is, but I always like to believe that that's like the realm of the Void Lords, and that one day we might actually visit it. But that's purely speculation, headcanon, who knows?
Huh. Well, I think that pretty much sets up all of BFA. So I'm kind of curious where you think it's gonna go from here.
Ooh, where do we go from here? Well, we know from the beta that the first steps are going to be we're gonna get the Siege of Lordaeron coming week. Then we're gonna go out and we're gonna recruit more allies to continue the fighting. We're gonna get a whole bunch of Azerites, but also work with Magni to try and heal the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the conflict is going to play its parts. I think, it's so difficult to predict where it's gonna go. Like, I'd hate to see Sylvanas become another war chief put up on a chopping block. I really hate to see that. I personally preferred if instead of a Garrosh 2.0, they'd go with a Gromash 2.0. Gromash in Warcraft 3, he drank the demon blood again, and then he slayed Manoroth, where they healed him as a hero. So basically, caused the problem, fixed the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that they do the same with Sylvanas. Maybe her sister Illyria will fall to the void, and she's the only one that can confront her. Something like that. And then she goes out in a blaze of glory. But all the same, I could definitely understand people's criticism where it's like another war chief put up like that.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they retroactively say like, oh yeah, Teldrassil, that was like pure evil. It had to burn. But it doesn't seem to be the case right now, and I don't think they will. So there's that. There's also Azora, Naga, and N'Zoth that are going to play their parts. I would love to see all the old gods break out of the world and, become the Black Empire again.
Mm.
Black Empire was basically when the old gods ruled the world of Azeroth. Oh, I would love to see that. But Azora and N'Zoth, that's at least confirmed. We're going to see Jaina's journey as she returns to Kaltiris. What else do we know? Not much at this point. Like the future, like I said, is very hard to predict. I imagine that at some point our focus is going to be we're going to be fighting over Azerites. We're going to be fighting over dominance of the world. And I imagine in a wordplay that Battle for Azeroth is not so much going to be over dominance, but actually for the fate of the world. Maybe even against Azeroth itself as she wakes up. Something like that. And then at some point we gotta put our eyes on Void Lords. Like we gotta go to the Shadow Realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Death gonna play a part?
Do you think that other things are gonna be destroyed, much like the tree? Like, do you think someone's gonna get that Azerite and be like, you know what, we're gonna fight back, and they're gonna, use it against Orgrimmar in some way, or anything in the world?
I know Lordaeron, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Again with the Orgrimmar, like, didn't we rebuild that city like 4 times now?
Yeah, they did, but honestly, I like the old version. I like the bank placement a little better.
Just blow it up and get the old version.
Yeah. I'm just kind of curious because I almost see Azerite as like a nuclear weapon at this point. But I mean, like, we could get like some sort of Garrosh corruption thing where someone's like, oh, Azerite, and they like inject it in their veins or something and become a superhuman or super creature or whatever it is.
You're gonna see a whole lot of Azeroth and play a whole lot of parts in storylines here and there. Yeah. Azeroth is gonna Azeroth does not just change the balance of power between the Alliance and the Horde. It changed it across the board. Like from pirates to kobolds, everybody's gonna get their hands on Azeroth and everybody's gonna get a power up.
Ooh. Yeah, I like that. I think that'd be great to see roided out kobolds walking around.
Take Azeroth, yeah.
You don't take Azeroth. Yeah, that'd be great. I also you mentioned Jaina. I forgot all about Jaina. So what's actually happening with her? Because I haven't even paid attention to all the like things she's had with like little lore clips and movies and everything. I'm clueless.
Well, Jaina is... I've actually just done the full story of Jaina. It's like nearly 2 hours. It's kind of bizarre.
Oh, wow.
Jaina got this beautiful Warbringer episode in which they sing the song of the Daughter of the Sea. Basically, what happened with Jaina in Warcraft 3, she stepped to the side as her father Dalen showed up again. And Dalen, he did not believe that the Horde had changed. He did not believe that Thrall's Horde was any different than a Horde that he fought against. So despite his daughter telling him not to, he struck out. To which Thrall, Rexxar, they entered Fedamore and they took care of her father. But Jaina actually stood to the side. Like, she did not stand with her father. She actually stood to the side and let this happen. In her final moments, she was like, Father, why didn't you listen? And Thrall and Rexxar, they were like, we're cool now. We're going to go back to Orgrimmar. The peace stands and we're cool. But the people at Kaltiris, they were not too happy. They saw her father's mission as a rescue mission. And on the shores, he found the Savage Horde again. And his daughter stood to the side as the Savage Horde murdered her father. They were pissed and they wanted to retaliate. But the Alliance in general, they were still dealing with the aftermath of the plague. They were like, no, Dalen did this to himself. Deal with it. To which Kaltiris was like, screw you, Alliance. And they left. But their hatred was not pointed towards the Alliance. The hate was pointed towards the Daughter of the Sea, the one who stepped to the side. So for many years, they made songs about her, which are still sung on Kaltiris to this day. And of course, as we can see with Jaina, over time, her mindset has changed as well. She went from somebody that would do anything to get peace to the bombing of Fedamore. And from the bombing of Fedamore to the Purge of Dalaran, to Draenor, to Legion. Time and time again, to her it seems like the Horde cannot be trusted and there must be action taken. She has started to believe in her father's words, that he was right. And in the Daughter of the Sea episode, she tells him, like, Father, I am listening now. So she raises the ship of her father from the bottom of the sea. And next time we're going to see her is in the Siege of Lordaeron, where she's going to use that mother-ducking boat to save the Alliance. And I cannot wait to see that moment. Oh, I'm so excited. So yeah, she's going to make a return. For those wondering, like, what has she done in Legion? Because she left the Kirin Tor. She's been fighting demons on her own, and she's on a journey. She's trying to figure out what exactly is it that makes her happy. Like, she knows what she hates. She knows that she hates the Horde, and that, she doesn't like what it does to her. But what exactly is it that she loves? What will make her tick? Well, as it turns out, she's
kind of on like a self-discovery journey.
Correct, yes. And she's gonna go back home. She's gonna go to the people that hate her. She knows that they hate her, but for the sake of the Alliance, she's still going to, not embrace that, but face it. She's going to face the demons of the past, and she's going to go on a journey and reconnect with her people of old. Now, a lot of people are like, Dalen was right, and Jaina was right. I'm personally of the mindset that back then, during Warcraft 3, Thrall's Horde was definitely different, and her father definitely did not listen, despite what she said. So I'm hoping that Jaina also realizes, like, yes, the Horde has changed, but the Horde is not the war chief, and there is more to it. But only time will tell how that's all going to play out.
Where do you think her character development's gonna go? Like, do you think she's going to like fight Sylvanas? Do you think it's gonna be some like big battle she fights in, or like is she gonna take over the Alliance or something? Like, what do you think?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I mean, at the start, we see her reconnect with her people and be embraced again by the Kaltirans. And from her point of view right now, the Horde cannot be trusted, and I imagine that more of the Alliance are willing to listen now. After the events of Teldrassil, I imagine a lot more are going to be like, yeah, they did kind of burn down our tree. You were kind of right. As she quite literally, I think it was the novel War Crimes, a lot of people pointed this out as well, or Tides of War even, she literally asked them, like, what does it take for you to realize what the Horde is? Do they need to burn down Teldrassil? So, yeah, she quite literally said that. So I'm going to imagine that that's going to be the starting point. But at some point, voices of reason will have to call out again. Because of all the promotion and it matters, like, pick your faction. At the end of the day, we're still playing an MMORPG. We're still playing World of Warcraft. And the factions need to exist. There's no way that they're going to absolve the Alliance of the Horde. I never see that happen. So at some point, cooler heads will have to prevail, and they will have to work towards peace. Because if not, then what are you left with? Just constant war while we fight the big guys? Maybe. Time will tell, I suppose.
Huh. Well, I'm pretty excited for BFA now, knowing all of that.
I am more excited. Like, it's been insane, dude. Like, the last week has been such a roller coaster of lore. I went from I do not give a crap about this faction war to, oh my god, I cannot wait to see how this plays out. Even with the idea of the mindset of, yes, we are doing another Mr. Pandaria. Like, we're doing another bad war chief, and the Horde needs to find itself, and the Horde is not the war chief. Even then, I'm still very curious how it's going to be played out and where the road's going to take us.
That leads me to ask my final thing I had, which is Sour Fang. And I know they've had the little Sour Fang story trailer thing they showed off that you talked about a bit. Can you go into more of the history behind Sour Fang? 'Cause I remember seeing him way back in, like, Vanilla WoW, I think, in Orgrimmar.
Yeah. Sour Fang is an orc that's been with the Horde since its first incarnation. Sipped on that delicious demon blood, did some horrible things in Shefra City, horrible things in Stormwind City. He's been a fighter, a big fighter, and he stood with the war. He was such a powerful orc that he would have made a proper war chief in his own right, but instead he was a lieutenant. In Classic, he was indeed there in Orgrimmar, where he accepted the Onyxia head quest, and he would strike down people that would strike at him. But he also led the Kalimdor offensive into Silphus against Kafun, which is why in the Battle for Azeroth cinematic, where he, like, chokes on his drink and he's like, nothing ever good comes out of Silphus, that's calling back to the time where he went there to fight against Kafun. Now, in Wrath of the Lich King, he faced tragedy in the form of his son dying to Arthas at the Wrathgate. The Wrathgate cinematic, one of the best ones they've ever done. Dranosh was one shot, struck down, his soul was taken, and turned into a Death Knight. To which later on, in Icecrown Citadel, we actually face his child, we put him down, and Dranosh collects the body of his son. And in that old soldier cinematic, we see him, you know, you have earned your warrior's death, you've earned your death in battle, but mine has still been denied. And he needs to continue on, even though his own son has lost his life. In Legion, he played a bit of a part with the Warrior Order Hall campaign. And now in Battle for Azeroth, like I mentioned before, he's a big part of the campaign into Darkshore. He's a big part of planning that. Sylvanas uses him as a symbol of honor to get everybody else behind this. And he's convinced that peace is an impossibility, that the horrors of the past will always cause infighting. And he is convinced in her plan or motivation that it's better to start a war and claim dominance rather than try to go for peace. Now, there's a lot to be said there and a lot of individual opinions. In my opinion, if time truly breaks all bonds, then peace at the end of the day is never possible. Unless Sylvanas or ulterior motives are to just bring everybody into the embrace of undeath. That could be a thing. But they don't specifically say that. Either way, he leads the troops into the campaign. He faces off against Malfurion, and he knows that he's going to die, but the Banshee Queen saves his life. Then he interrupts the battle between the Banshee Queen and Malfurion, which is like, this is not the way, this is not honorable, I regret what I did. Tyrande confronts him, and, you know, the little dialogue that plays out in-game, that happens there as well. And then the burning of the tree, where he cannot believe what Sylvanas has done. This goes against their plans. They were supposed to siege it, they were supposed to have hostages. And instead, she puts it on fire. Like, what the hell? And the little details that I never catch up on when I watch those cinematics. Like, apparently in the Old Soldier cinematic, when Zeffy Boy lights the fire, you can actually see Sour Fang flinch because he remembers the burning of the tree. Oh, wow. Like, wow, that's a really nice touch. I didn't even notice that. And there's a really cool movement going out where it's no pauldrons, no honor, where everybody's like taking off the shoulder pads in game to just
I've
represent
seen
like we
that.
do not stand with a war chief. Oh, it's such a nice touch. And yeah, he makes the call to not stand with the war chief, but he does still stand with the horde. He stands with the horde's children, like they have nothing left but the horde, and he will fight with them. Then in the Battle for Azeroth cinematic, we actually see Sylvanas jump down where she screams for the horde and invigorates his fighting spirit. And the battle continues. And then in Battle for Azeroth, well, we talked about it earlier. Sylvanas crosses the line once again, and Sourfang does not stand with her again. He realized, like, this is just too far. This is not my horde. What honor is there in this? And he decides to chill in jail for a while.
Huh. Well, I think he's one of the cooler like characters we've gotten for the horde in a while. 'Cause it's like even Garrosh. Like Garrosh was like, you know, he was kind of cool, and then I don't know. I just didn't really care that much about Garrosh. But Sourfang's like, he's been there since the start. Like he's been through everything, and now he's kind of like the badass like horde hero type of guy.
I personally felt like they pushed the honor bit a bit too much in game, where it was like, we will not harm these civilians if they put up arms. We will capture them and interrogate them with honor. And it's like, oh, dude, come on.
Yeah.
We're invading here. What the hell?
Yeah, I agree with that.
But overall, like with cinematic as well, it's just, oh, they know how to pull on the heartstrings.
Yeah. And I just wanted to mention the axe throw, because that Sourfang axe throw was easily one of the strongest axe throws I have seen ever.
I mean, to be fair, if you would be landed with an axe in your back, you would go down as well, right?
Well, but just the sheer health chunk you see taken out of him. That's like one of the strongest elves, one of the strongest druids, and he just like boop, it's practically dead.
I mean, it was a backstab though.
Yeah, but
if you want to talk about power, what about those catapults that are able to reach Teldrassil? If you want to talk about power.
Can I say that I was really hoping that you would get to burn down the tree, like click the catapult, like click, like hey, I did it. You know?
I read comments about that where everybody was like, "Oh my god, we burned down the tree," and you were like, "I'm not the one who burns down the tree." What?
Yeah, like I wanted to be one of the ones that burned down the tree. You know, like get the player involved. Like Sylvanas, like, hey, click that thing. You're like, all right, Captain. You know. But I even thought like Garrosh, he would have probably like flown a zeppelin over it and like dropped a bomb on it. Like when she just fires some catapults, like come on.
I mean, they were fiery enchanted catapults. I mean, there is something.
She could have even had those bats like fly over with like fire bombs or something. Like come on, get creative.
You just really wanted to burn those night elves, didn't you?
I wanted to just be the one that did it in game, and I wanted it to happen in a fun way, not just like cinematic catapults. There it is, like.
Everybody is like soul searching, like how can I stand with the horde when I did this? And you're like, I wasn't allowed to do this. What the hell? I want my money back, man.
But you know, hopefully in the future they change that. They allow you to, you know, get in a zeppelin or something when we blow something up again. Maybe Galliwix will. You know, if there's anyone I can get behind for blowing stuff up, it's got to be the goblins. Goblins know how to do it.
Absolutely. When you bring them Azerite, that's the good shit.
Yeah. Oh man, goblins and Azerite is gonna be a fun combo. Well, I think we've covered everything we need to know for now. So.
We've been talking for nearly an hour? Man, time flies.
I know, right? So, I mean, we'll see where it goes from here. And then I'll probably ask you more questions once we know what happens in the BFA.
Sounds really good to me. Yeah, these chats are always fun, man.
Yeah. So, why don't you go ahead and promote all your stuff, and then I'll link to it anyway, but you can promote it.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, right now on my YouTube channel, if you are a new player or old player coming back to the game, I have a catch-up video which explains to you what happened during Legion into Battle for Azeroth. I have videos on Jaina and Sourfang and the War of Thorns campaign and the Collector's Edition book. Pretty much anything you could hope for if you're interested in it. Besides the story of Thrall, that's still on my to-do list. Anyways, check out my YouTube channel, Nobbel87, or find me live over at Twitch, Nobbel87, or elsewhere on the internet on the Nobbel87. And thank you, everybody.
And thank you for joining me again and answering all my newbie lore questions.
Always. I'm getting better at the self-promo thing, aren't I?
You are. I'm proud of you.
Hell yeah.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Again, links in the description if you want to check Nobbel out, or just Google him. And I will see you next time. Okay.
See ya.
See ya.